11 days since the Pahalgam terror attack in which 26 Indian citizens were killed, all civilians. We have still not got the terrorists involved. However, a terror outfit linked to Pakistan-based Lashkar-e-Taiba had claimed responsibility for the attack. So let's now take a look at the big developments today in the midst of the heightened tension between India and Pakistan after the Pahalgam attack. Today, Pakistan claimed it tested a ballistic missile. The missiles have a range of 450 kilometers. So nuclear flex at a time when the situation between the countries is tense. The missile test date, in fact, was brought forward to today. India, meanwhile, today announced a three-pronged action against Pakistan designed to hit their economy. India banned imports as well as incoming mail and parcels from Pakistan, also barring the docking of ships from Pakistan at all Indian ports. Now, Prime Minister Modi today reiterated that India is committed to taking firm and decisive action against the terrorists. This was during a press briefing today along with the visiting Angolan president. He said, "We are committed to taking firm and decisive actions against terrorists and those who support them." Now today, another interesting development was a special search operation was conducted at the airport in Colombo after a tip-off that 6 suspects involved in the Pahalgam terror attack could be on board that flight. However, after the search, no one was identified. And finally, today evening, Navy Chief Admiral Tripathi met with Prime Minister Modi. So today, on the show, the Prime Minister vows decisive action. Rattled Pakistan provokes. Joining us on the program to discuss this today, we're joined by Rabinder Sachdev, Foreign Affairs expert, Dr. Brahma Chelani, Strategic Affairs expert, Major General Gigi Dwivedi, a Global Strategic and Defense expert, and Nirja Chaudhary, Senior Journalist, joining us. Thank you so much all for joining us on the program today. And first, you, Dr. Brahma Chelani, your reaction, your comments on what these developments today, the fact that in the midst of this very heightened tension, and as you know, we're all waiting to see what action in India will take, Pakistan, testing this ballistic missile, a very outrageous and provocative action, and a nuclear flex.
You're absolutely right. The fact is that India is no longer willing to let its water generosity and its patience be repaid in blood. This is a test of Modi's leadership. Modi has pledged to track down the perpetrators and their backers to the ends of the earth, he said, and punish them, quote unquote, beyond their imagination. Now, Modi has to walk the talk. He has at the same time to calm national anger. He has to keep the country united and exact revenge in a cautious and calibrated way without triggering escalation. But some of the mantras Modi has been repeating in recent years, including the world is one family and this is not the era of war, can only sharpen the dilemma he currently faces about how to send a strong message to Pakistan so as to deter future cross-border attacks. And I think there are 3 things that really stand out, that if India is to build deterrence against Pakistan to prevent further attacks, first, India should target not just the terrorist proxies of the military generals in Pakistan. India has to target the terror masters, the military generals. They are the ones who are running the show. They are the puppeteers. So targeting only their puppets, as we did last time in Balakot. Remember when the Balakot airstrike happened? We issued a statement saying that we had consciously not hit a military target, we had hit a non-military target. This approach has to change. Second, India has to impose costs on the Pakistani armed forces when they least expect to be hit. Right now, the Pakistan armed forces are on high alert. They are expecting an Indian attack. And third, for deterrence to work, the cost will have to be imposed not through a one-off operation, but in a sustained manner. Sustained manner employing all tools at India's disposal, not just the military tools, but all non-military tools. For example, the riparian leverage India has as the upstream country
Right.
on
That's
the
something
Indus
we have
Basin.
announced, and yes, certainly we would like to see, prolonged action on all fronts going forward to, as you said, as a deterrence that, so no action like this can be taken again. This pushing in of terrorists by, Pakistan, something that their own minister has admitted that they were playing this dirty game, for the West, for the United States. But Major General Gigi Dwivedi, your comments on, all these developments today, and we do know the armed forces have been given that, the clearance or the power by the Prime Minister to decide whatever action they want to, whatever response they want to take to this. But this long waiting game, and this is something, do you think, that is making Pakistan jittery right now, and therefore we're seeing this sort of, testing of their, missiles taking place? We've seen certain outrageous statements being made by their ministers. In the midweek, one of them said within 24 to 36 hours, they were expecting some kind of attack. So is this, prolonged wait, which, Indian side too is waiting, making Pakistan very jittery?
Absolutely. Firstly, thanks, Gagi, for getting me on your show. Well, I think India has realized that it is not a cross-border terrorism. It's a proxy war. And when you have to defeat a proxy war, it cannot be just one or two actions or rap on the knuckles. Proxy war has to be now taken well beyond the LOC. And we have to hit where it hurts Pakistan. And more so the Pakistan army, because they are having a field day with the ceasefire, on the LOC. They are not getting punished. In fact, when I was the commander in this area, there was no ceasefire. Whenever we found that any hostile action from the other side, we did give very strong punishment. Now, that is not the case with ceasefire in place since 2003, and it was again invoked in 2021. The Pakistan army has not been punished. So therefore, Gargi, the issue is that we need to take this as a proxy war. And when we take as a proxy war, it has to be a nation war. It is just not a few strikes here and there. We have to punish Pakistan militarily, economically, diplomatically. So therefore, now I think the Indian government strategy is that it has to be a long-term affair, because we know that Pakistan cannot sustain a long war. Yes, it can take few hits, but it cannot sustain long war. And we have to bring the Pakistan army into the ring, because so far they are only doing the corporate role. I think we need to get them onto the military role and get them off the corporate and running the country. So therefore, I would recommend that this is actually the right strategy. We have to now look at the larger picture and ensure that Pakistan actually feel the heat. The army is hurt, and therefore they need to mend the ways, because so far our strategy only doing counter infiltration on the LOC, right, and tightening the grid inside has not worked. Therefore, I think this strategy now will be to hit deeper and hit longer and make it unsustainable for Pakistan. I think government is on the right strategy, and we must execute it ruthlessly as a war of the nation, and not just only restrict to few strikes here and there.
Right, and our options are many, not just militarily. There are other options the government's already exercising. We spoke of the riparian, the suspension of the water treaty. We're trying to isolate Pakistan. Nirja Chaudhary, your comments on, what Dr. Brahmachalani said, that this is one of the biggest challenges that the Prime Minister is facing right now. Fortunately, there's no, immediate elections. Yes, Bihar elections are some way off, but no immediate elections. And therefore, we can, take our time. But yes, the country demands a strong action against Pakistan, especially given the manner in which 26 citizens were killed and, the kind of divisions it's sown in our society.
I think, this time Pahalgam is different from all the attacks we've had earlier. Of course, we know Balakot in 2019, where 40 paramilitary forces were attacked, and we responded by striking inside the territory of Pakistan. That was, not civilians. So also Uri in 2016, that was 19 soldiers killed, and we had the surgical strikes. That was also not civilians. In 2008 in Mumbai, that attack, of course, there were civilians, 166 people were killed. But this time, Pahalgam is more deliberate And it has aroused more anger in the country because, of course, there are innocent tourists who were targeted. And after ascertaining their religion, they were singled out for killing. Now, there is huge grief in the country. There's huge anger in the country. And the Prime Minister and his colleagues are aware of this. So there is a ground level pressure on the government to act. Now, how to act to minimize the damage to our own country, to the India story, and to inflict the maximum damage on Pakistan. Most people in India believe that Pakistan, even though it denies it, is behind these attacks. And therefore, the due deliberation that we are seeing, it's not a knee-jerk response. In fact, the government has been trying to take steps to tone down the hyper rhetoric. By the hour, we want to know what the government is doing, what the response is going to be. Whereas I think it's much more calibrated going to be, and do deliberation. Diplomatically, they are in touch. Militarily, we are preparing. And that is the way it should be. Now, I believe the Prime Minister, of course, told the country that, decisive action, unimaginable, what the Pakistanis thought would be, or the terrorists thought they couldn't even imagine. And the others like Amit Shah have said, chun chun ke marenge. So, very strong rhetoric, Prime Minister from Bihar and others from here, has been used about the government's resolve. And the Prime Minister let it be known inside the government, whatever we do will be big, number one, or danke ki chot pe hum karenge ye. But it has to have that due deliberation, calibration, and it's probably going to be a long-term thing. It's not a one-shot response. We cannot be bled like this. And I think there is the new thing this time also is that Kashmir so far stands with the rest of India. And Omar Abdullah again met the Prime Minister today. And also that in Muslims in India, the Pakistan and terrorists may have hoped that this would lead to a backlash, Hindu-Muslim backlash, and that may have been one of the designs. But so far, the Muslims in India, there have been some incidents, have spoken very strongly condemning Pakistan. So internally, there is greater strength and a visible unity than possibly in the past. So that is going for us. But diplomatically, we have to move very carefully, because what Bangladesh will do, what China will do, what the United States will do, we don't know. Those are question marks, imponderables.
No, absolutely. And you're right. We heard Omar Abdullah earlier talking about how he hopes this is a turning point. He feels it's going to be a turning point given the outpouring of anger in Kashmir after this attack took place. But yes, Nirja, what the international community also watching very closely, and that brings me to Ravinder Sachdev. Sir, your comments on what Nirja just said, that there's a lot that we have to take into account. The China factor is also there. This is a time when China is facing this tariff war with the United States. India was hoping to benefit from that. An attack like this is obviously something that it destabilizes in a sense. At a time when now our focus shifts from the economy to this war, which we're still waiting to see what sort of form it's going to take. Is it a hot war? Is it going to be a very prolonged war? Exactly what India's response is going to be. But yes, your comments on that.
Well, thank you so much. I was thinking of a few points, but you mentioned China and economic. I'll put that front and square. This is not only a terror attack on India, it's an economic hit on India. And coming at a time when the Trump tariffs are forcing companies to relocate or think to get out of China urgently. Creating a war-like environment in India closes the India option for many of them or delays it. This helps China. And this helps China create handicap and hurdles in the end game for Trump. Right. So this is helping China, and this is also creating hurdles for Trump in whatever schema he's looking at. That should be our point to the American interlocutors. Now, stepping back above, I think, a great point that Prime Minister Modi perhaps faces a challenge to square off, his statements about this is not the era of war and Vasudeva Kutumbakam. I think, and I've been arguing for a long time, that maybe another paradigm for us is live and let live. Else, you let me live, I will let you live. We have to coexist. But if you do not let me live, then I will, for my own survival, have to act like we did in Galwan. So live and let live is a overarching mantra, which I think perhaps would always be suitable for us. One. Secondly, I think what now the Americans are, what we should be conveying to them, maybe already are, but one is just speculating that we are now into a doctrine of tit for tat. And I'm using this term specifically, tit for tat. This is language, the jargon which Trump, Vance, Rubio, Hexeth, etc. understand. There has been a hit, we have to even the score. One. Secondly, America, please exert all your pressure which you can on Pakistan. That, of course, we expect we will hit, Pakistan will retaliate, but Pakistan should not over retaliate. It should keep its retaliation to some level, maybe a kind of, facade or a charade, just for the gimmick of it. Because if Pakistan responds with a larger dimension, then obviously we are going to go hammer and hammer. So if you want to prevent a war, then that is the message you should give and pressure Pakistan. And that should be something we should be discussing with the Saudis and also the Arab Emirates. That yes, our doctrine is tit for tat. We have been hit, we will hit back. Pakistan should behave itself. Right. So that's what and top it up with the context of America, that this is an economic hit on India. This spoils your plans to get American companies out of China. This spoils your plans to, corner China. So this is China's game against you. Also, if there is some coordination at the back end between Pakistan and China. Now, the next point is that of, the trade and all that we're talking about India did.
Yes.
I think we should kind of bunch it together and say simple, boycott Pakistan. That should be a, call going out, not maybe from the government, but from the people of India to our Indian diaspora or to the governments. Boycott Pakistan. It's time for that. And lastly, regarding water, my sense is that, you see, the issue of water is obviously, as we've all discussed and know, complicated, much money, etc. But we should work on it like a moon mission. Let's say 30 by 30, that's 30% of the water by 2030 can be engineering wise, divert or do something. That would be something, a weapon we will give to our future generations. It will not be for us. It will be a Brahmastra that we can leave for our future generations. And I think it's the duty of our generation to create that Brahmastra.
No, definitely a demand that whatever action we take, it has to be long-term, whatever actions rather, I think, because not just militarily, there are many actions that India is, every day unveiling various steps against Pakistan, efforts to isolate them as well. Dr. Brahmachalani, back to you, your comments on, the international community, watching what is happening, China factor, Turkey factor, the US as well. And another interesting development today was this searching of a plane from Chennai to Colombo after inputs that possibly some suspects of the Pahalgam attack were on that plane. None of them were found. But, it just boggles the mind to imagine that they could have possibly gone all the way to Chennai and then, attempted to fly to Sri Lanka.
You're absolutely right. But I look at the bigger paradox first before I reply to your question. The paradox is that it is not the bigger and stronger country that is bleeding the smaller and weaker country through a proxy war. It's a smaller country that's bleeding the bigger country. And the bigger country has been behaving as if it's the weaker country. It's India that wants a ceasefire along the line of control. It's India that wants the LOC to be sacrosanct. Instead of actually exerting sustained pressure on Pakistan, it's India that's been, in a very reactive way, seeking the reaffirmation of the status quo. This mindset has to change. Otherwise, we will continue to be the victim of Pakistan's unconventional war. But to answer your question, the geopolitical environment today is quite unfavorable to Pakistan. We have an administration in Washington that is quite openly supportive of India. that is willing to work with India, even in relation to Pakistan. Publicly, it's making all kinds of noises, saying, talking about friends in India and friends in Pakistan. But privately, they are signaling to India that India should do what's necessary for its security. The only thing the US doesn't want is a regional war breaking out. But Modi has no intention of triggering a full-fledged war. So, short of triggering a full-fledged war, India has all the room to teach Pakistan a lesson. As far as China and Pakistan are concerned, we should not forget that China and Pakistan are both revisionist states that lay claims to sizable but different parts of India. They have little in common other than a shared interest in containing India. This is the axis of evil, or the marriage of convenience between China's communist expansionism and Pakistan's jihadist terrorism. But look at the irony here. China incarcerates more than 1 million Muslims in Xinjiang, and yet it's a steadfast ally of Pakistan, and Pakistan is wholly dependent on China today, because now Pakistan cannot rely on the US.
Yeah,
during the Biden administration, yes.
A need-based, association that they've had now for a while. But Nirja Chaudhary, you spoke about how the public wants a big action, but what is the appetite for a long war to take place? And coming back to this big development today, the testing of ballistic missile by Pakistan, flexing their nuclear power.
Yes, they're absolutely visibly, openly, loudly flexing their muscles and telling the world we are a nuclear power, and if there is this flashpoint between India and Pakistan, this is where it could lead to, and get the international community to come in. Obviously, this is the design behind what they're doing. But I think, ultimately, whatever be the short-term response, we cannot control how things will go after that. Even a short-term response is time, because they will also react, we will also react. Will they react again? Where is it all going to? Therefore, we have to be ready on all fronts. And I think we have to long-term, I agree with Brahma, that long-term you have to be strong to be able to deal with Pakistan, which is absolutely, there seems to be no let-up on this sponsoring of terror. You have to be strong militarily, economically, inside the country, deal with your fault lines to be able to take on this challenge.
All right, we're running out of time, but yes, the enraging comments by Asif Munir as well. But Major General Gigi Dwivedi, yes, final comments from you.
Well, Gargi, I think the point I'm trying to make is that we need to actually, what is our aim? Our political aim is to defeat Pakistan proxy war, and that should be the governing factor as to how we are going to act, because it's not terrorism, it is the proxy war. And once we have realized that it is the proxy war that we have to defeat, then we have to put all the actions into place. And there's no question of the short term. No, it has to be long term. As I stated, that Pakistan doesn't have the stamina to take on the long term war. So therefore, Pakistan must be engaged in the long term, and there's enough space short of the full scale war and the low intensity war. There's enough space that can be created. And my final point is that we need to change our strategy altogether. It has been very defensive. It has been only, responding to Pakistan. We have not been proactive. We have only been reactive. Until we become proactive, until we, deter Pakistan, this is not going to be over. And that's what has happened in the last 3.5 decades. I think we need to get a very clear strategy that is proactive and also hurt Pakistan from all quarters. Militarily, diplomatically,
keep up that pressure. That's what Dr. Brahmachalani also spoke about, how we've always been reactive. Final word to you, Ravinder Sachdev. So a challenging time for India, where we have to respond to this, but also at the same time managing the international community. Just today, you've had Dr. Jaishankar speaking with the Russian foreign minister as well, and apprising him of the situation.
Well, thank you so much. Quick bullet points, and let's remember Pakistan is also doing the same. Witkoff, His son was in Pakistan over the weekend, by the way. I think some of us or all of us would know, for a cryptocurrency deal. Witkoff, imagine that. So Pakistan is also doing. Anyway, I'll step back. I'll just lay out the bullet points. One, our motto is live and let live or else. Second, our doctrine is tit for tat. Third, our approach is that America, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates should step in and pressurize Pakistan not to spiral up, rather to spiral down. Throw a few missiles here, there into the jungles and say, I've done, because it has to save its face also. Fourthly, boycott Pakistan. And lastly, create a water weapon for the future generations of India through a moon-like, whatever-like mission to create a Brahmastra, so that 50 years from today, by 2047, let's say, half the waters of Indus, this river system, we should be able to manage and turn on and off. Engineering challenge, but let's aim for it.
Is something that would probably take a longer time to accomplish, but thank you. So I'm completely out of time. Thank you so much all for joining us today on the program. It's been 11 days since the terror attack in Pahalgam, in which 26 of our citizens were killed, and the Prime Minister today promising decisive action. Pakistan testing its ballistic missile. Will continue to track all those developments taking place. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.